to the Red Man Group Patriarchs Edition, episode 14. We're going to dive right into this. We're not going to go around the panel and talk about what we've been up to. We're not going to talk about getting tickets to 21 convention coming up this October. You should be there, link below. We're not going to talk about all those things. We're going to dive right into how we can protect ourselves and how we can protect our families. As patriarchs, we are the shield and the spear. We must defend our clan, and we must be able to go out and attack. And a lot of men are finding themselves in a position where their number is called and they don't know what to do. They've never had someone actually tell them, hey, when violence comes your way, this is what you do. Because we're living in an age where you have to go out of your way to be uncomfortable. You know, we have climate controlled houses, climate controlled cars, climate controlled offices. Everything is nice and neat and packaged clean. But when shit hits the fucking fan, what are you going to do? You need to be able to answer. So I brought this panel together because they embody exactly what's needed. We've got two gentlemen who are subject matter experts when it comes to defense and offense of the self, as well as the unit, you know, your clan, your family, your group, whatever it may be. And you've got two fathers who are just, you know, we're not going to go out and play Navy SEAL. We're not going to go out and play Green Beret, contractor, you know, we're not Blackwater. We're dads, you know, but we can still train ourselves and prepare ourselves to take care of our family if and when our number is called. So with that, let's get right to it. Rich, welcome to the panel. Let's let these men know where you're coming from, who you are. You know, you lost the beard, so they have no idea. So
yeah,
what's up, Rich? Welcome.
I have no beard, so now I'm undercover. It's like the opposite. So, hey guys, Rich Graham, veteran Navy SEAL and a tactical advisor for some SWAT teams, and do a lot of corporate active shooter response training.
Excellent. And Swift, while many on the Twitter sphere understand who you are, you know, for those tuning in or those new to the show, who is Mr. Swift?
Swift, veteran law enforcement, 18 years. Prior to that, 9 years paramedic. In the meantime, SWAT team commander, riot team commander. Also, private military contractor for a 3-letter group, a couple years. Other than that, consulting, active shooter scenarios for corporate, houses of worship, churches, and also some other government agencies around here who want to be as deep and as gray as man as possible around the Denver metro area. Other than that, a dad also, firearms instructor. I teach couples. I also started last year, I didn't mention it in Orlando or to you guys, but I also started a kids zone active shooter home invasion course. I've already got 53 so far graduates of that. And mind you, those are 13 down to 7.
Very cool.
Years old.
That's awesome. It should be clear at this point why those two are on the panel. Now, why did I bring on Jeff? Jeff, many know you. You're a father of 9, the patriarch of all patriarchs. I mean, you're beating Tanner Guzzi, so props on that. But as soon as we had a discussion recently inside the fraternity, you know, it kind of started with me shooting my firearm but not carrying concealed. And that led to the idea of this episode, which is being able to defend yourself, defend your family, or educate. So give a little background on where you're coming from and then share your past month with us.
All right. Well, you know, like you said, I'm a dad. I've got 9 kids. Thank God there's only 1 girl out of the 9. You know, as a husband, a dad, and a man in general, I believe that there's only 3 things that you should be doing for your family on a constant basis. It's providing and presiding, and lastly, protecting. And so it's my obligation, it's my duty to protect my family with everything I can. And this past month has been a bit of a nightmare because once your kids get grown and they move out and they start getting jobs and apartments and going to college, you can't protect them anymore because you're not with them. And a month ago, there was a mass shooting in El Paso. My 19-year-old lives right next door to that Walmart. And then this past Saturday, the shooting in Odessa, Texas, right outside of my oldest son's college. So in the past month, I've had 2 sons present within the general area of the line of fire in active shooter situations. And I'll tell you, there's no worse feeling than when you're a dad and you feel completely helpless and you can't get them to pick up the phone.
We often have a degree of separation from violence there's often, oh, that doesn't happen to my town. That doesn't happen to my family. That wouldn't happen to me until it does. And that's why I want this show to kick off, with let's have that discussion. How can you make sure that if and when it does happen to you, you're prepared? Jeff, in a million years, I would never have thought somebody that I knew on Twitter would be talking to me about, hey, my kid is at this spot. Oh, that thing you see on the news? Yeah, my son is there. Because you're like, holy shit. Things get a little bit more real when you see people on the camera. You're like, look, I might have just seen your kid running by or running away. That's fucking terrifying. As a father, you're not there. You can't grab them and shield them. So now you look back on, did I teach them? Did I arm them at least with the knowledge to, hey, do what you need to do to get away from that scenario? Or, if it comes to blows, being able to protect yourself. Now with that, I'm going to drop an image on the screen and I want people to see, because they often think it's not going to happen to me. That's the famous words. I'm good. It's not going to be watch. My family's safe. Everything's good. If you look at this map, these are all of the mass shootings, school shootings only. These are school shootings in the United States. If you look at the big red circles, that's the higher death toll. Fun fact, this is as of April 20th. So this is not up to date. There are more red dots, big red circles like that on this map if it were to be current. This is no joke. This is no what if scenario. This is happening. This is the age we live in. Now, with that said, I'll toss this one to Swift. Why do you think this is occurring at a greater frequency?
Short answer.
Sure.
Okay. Mental health issues.
And the long answer?
The long answer is it's a very compounded issue, mental health issues, also with the degeneracy of our society and culture, the lack of God being in our lives, the lack of men teaching what real masculinity, God-given masculinity in the families is, the true absence of family. Then you also have the overreaching extent of government. And I'm not saying that government's bad, but I'm also saying when you put one in, something's got to come out. Well, when the family comes out, government's going to step in. So you're going to get all kinds of stuff. And then on top of that, you're going to have just a true hatred. I mean, evil, biblical terms, just pure evil, but just hatred of and the, sorry, I'm starting to go way too fast in my own head. But when
no, it's good, man. People need to hear the conversation. They need to think about these next layer of things before we talk about, here's your tactical, approaches to take. Let's go down why this is happening, then what to do, and then what you can prepare for.
The devalue of human life itself. Holy fuck. I mean, I have a good friend, Jeremy Fox. Him and I get into the conversation quite a bit. When you devalue human life, not just this killing, not just this. I mean, it's true senseless killing. I mean, there's killing and then there's senseless killing. This is senseless fucking killing. When you devalue human life, that also goes hand in hand with pornography. When you devalue people, then you are allowed to do more things, evil things to other people. That's my long answer. Of course, I can go all night long on that stuff.
I only have an hour and a half.
I know. But yeah, theologically and human and as a dad too, valuing human life also does not have to be a faith or religion thing. I mean, crap, we're all here, play nice, except when you don't have to.
Yeah. And, Swift, just hearing your answer on that, obviously this is something that affects everyone in America, all over the world right now with school shootings, and me having so many kids in school. It's something that I've looked into, and I've reached out to various people with opinions on the matter. And your bullet points that you brought up were really interesting. You had mentioned the lack of men teaching their boys what true and real masculinity is. And your other bullet point was an overreach of government. Those two, while they may sound different, there is another scenario that I've brought to mind where they are both symptoms of the disease. if you think about how, if you get a bunch of men together and we settle our disputes like men, whether it's a couple of knocks behind the car or whatever it is, it's settled. But right now we have an embargo on violence that's been put on us by the government. So you have all these people who haven't been listened to, they've been ignored, and they have no outlet, no one to challenge for disrespecting them. And so it builds up and it builds up and it builds up. And because they haven't been taught by a man how to deal with those things and how to channel that aggression and masculinity, they snap and they burst. Because think about it. If you and I had beef and I disrespected you or insulted your honor or whatever you want to call it, you know, you can hit me, but then you go to jail. So you're basically locked in impotence because, of course, the overreach of the government itself. Now, I don't want chaos or anarchy, but you cannot aggressively defend yourself without fear of reprisal by the government. And even worse so if you didn't have a father or a positive male role model to teach you how to deal with that aggression and channel it into something positive. All that just builds resentment, and it builds up and it builds up and it builds up and it builds up. You've got no outlet until one day you're sitting there and you're, you know, greasing up your pistol, getting ready to go out on a spree because you're just ready to kill every motherfucker that even looks like the guy that disrespected you. And so I think a lot of your bullet points really do compound and kind of intertwine with each other.
They do. It's very, it gets very lengthy pretty quick with the professionals, the psychotherapists, those people.
There's you'd need a fucking Venn diagram to map it all out.
Now, Rich, so we were recently talking about how you deal with executives, and that's why you had to kind of clean up and look like a gentleman. When you're dealing with, you know, the business types, and then we shot one-on-one, you know, you gave me a lot of lessons to take home, which is awesome. I've been using them. Do you have people asking you, like, why do you think this is happening? Why do you think schools are being shot? Why do you think businesses are being shot up? You know, do you have a blanket answer, or is it one of those, like, you have your personal opinion and you kind of keep it and save it for those really ready to hear it? Or is it just, you know, oh, because people are crazy?
No, people ask me that all the time, and everyone hopes it's an easy answer, but you know, just like you guys were speaking about, it's a very complex answer, and I agree. I think the issue, the problem of the heart, really, and to not repeat things that are already stated, because I agree with those. I think there's also a breakdown in people's development of communication, right? So communicating through text and all this stuff online, we never, I feel generations that are young right now never actually got to develop like the right communication skills and how to handle adversity and things like that. And I know just from one simple example, when I was training some security teams and stuff like that, and all they wanted to do was essentially shoot. And I'm like, dude, you guys are security teams. If all we ever teach you how to do is shoot, and we don't teach you any hand to hand, all you have is, sir, could you please do whatever it is I'm asking? And if you don't do that, next result, the only thing they have to go to is maximum violence by drawing their firearm. They have no middle ground, right? And I feel like a lot of these children, because they've never developed the proper communication skills, they have no middle ground on how to handle situations in person, right? So they go from level 0 to 10 throwing temper tantrums when they're children, and those temper tantrums as adults show up in, you know, them throwing a temper tantrum and shooting everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know, I think that's one of the aspects of this, in addition to the other things that were already stated.
Yeah, they've got no de-escalation skills.
Yeah.
Now, it's funny you're talking about the starting in childhood and, you know, the temper tantrums. I'm not going to go out there and say violent video games cause, you know, shooters. That's not going to be what I'm about to say. But electronics and I've this new thing I've kind of come across and I've been kind of chewing on mentally is electronic courage. You know, you have men online who will say things to you that they would never say to your face, but behind that username, they'll say this, they'll say that, and part of me wonders if you're brought up on that, if you're raised in an environment where you can say whatever you want without any, retaliation or consequences, does it start to get inside the head and start to develop this mindset of I am a man who can say this to somebody. I can walk up to a well-trained Navy SEAL or well-trained, SWAT law enforcement officer and just say whatever I want. And nothing can happen. Are they building this persona that is fucking infinite? It's just like untouchable. And we're in a different age. These kids are exposed to technology at like 5. Like my kids are not. A lot of parents, they do have strict regulation on screen time and whatnot, but some kids are plugged in a screen and they've got that username and they'll just say and do whatever they want. And I'm wondering if that plays into this.
Well, Hunter, it kind of goes into what I was saying. I think Robert E. Howard had said something along the line. If you guys don't know who that is, he authored the Conan the Barbarian series. One of his famous quotes was that savages are more polite by nature because they actually run the risk of having their head split open with an axe.
Yep.
Like I was just telling Swift before, we live in a society where any violence or disputes to be settled between individuals is completely off. It's completely off the table. You can't do any of that. So people have this courage that they can, throw stones or crap on your plate and there's no reprisal. And so, you can only kick a dog so many times before he's going to bite you. And so I think, what do you call them? The keyboard warriors. They're really tough behind the screen because they live in a world where retributive violence is not a factor. You can't smack somebody in the mouth without going to jail if they were messing with your wife or whatever.
Says where?
Well, without going to jail, unless you're like you, who knows every cop in Denver.
I don't pull those strings.
I know you don't. I'm only kidding.
So I'm tracking the chat while you guys are talking, and I'm going to throw one up there. Anthony says, "Do you think these symptoms are deliberately happening from taking the fathers out of the home?"
Yeah, I do. I mean, I grew up without a dad. My dad died before I even started school, and the first half of my life was, getting the crap beat out of me by a stepdad who didn't even want kids. And so, they say stepdads kill their kids faster than the real dads do when it comes to lack of parenting. And I didn't even learn what a real man was until I was adopted at age 12, by somebody who actually wanted a freaking kid. And I can't even imagine how it was for, someone who didn't have a father at all. And the only type of role model they get is someone they see on a screen or behind a media persona, or someone they saw in a movie, or even worse, a fucking video game. Or, you got, like you said, kids raising themselves on the fucking screens. Someone who fucking identifies their dad as Max Payne or Duke Nukem or whoever the fuck. If that's the only thing they have as, a scale to measure what a man is by, then they're fucked.
So I got a lot of fucking kickback when somebody shared something that said of the top 26 mass shooters, they all came from fatherless homes. And what I said on Twitter was, well, isn't that another way of saying they came from single mother homes? And like the internet lost their minds. But I think that does speak to, the older man passing on to the younger man. And this kind of goes to what Rit said about, instead of going to max violence, you kind of learn to communicate and work your way up to things. It's never taught how to channel, and I think if there's a takeaway from this, is teaching your kids how to channel their frustrations and their anger. It's okay to be mad. I've got 2 puppies, 2 8-month-old lab rotty mixes, and they beat the shit out of each other. But what they're doing is learning, how do you go all the way up to pain without going beyond pain? Like, that's how you learn, like, how hard does a punch hurt to where you're fooling around punch to where you're hurting somebody punch. And some people don't teach that. So they go full swing to knock somebody out. But I was just playing around. They never learned to pull back because they never played. They never wrestled. They never had that outlet. So,
yeah, I think Jeremy Fox and Adam Lane Smith had both mentioned something about that during a child's formative years between the ages of 0 and 4, rough play with a father is so imperative to their development on how to deal with conflict resolution, because it happens at such a stage where it's it's almost a subliminal lesson that they get taught. It's kind of coded into how they think, just because of that play. And I think just like those dogs wrestling around on the floor, a kid wrestling around on the floor with his dad, he learns what's too far and what's not, and then how to de-escalate, especially if, dad pisses the kid off. He sees how dad talks him down from that point.
Yeah. And there's value in losing.
Yeah.
You don't learn when you win, typically. You know what I mean? You learn the hard lessons when you lose. So one of the things that we're doing by the sports and all this stuff, by making sports easier and not letting, it's okay if you lose, right? And not having the, if we have that, like, everyone's a winner mentality, then we lose this opportunity where we allow our children and young men to learn things the hard way, right? Because you tell people things and they're like, yeah, I'm going to do it my way. But they have to be able to, crash and fall and then reflect on that and go, man, what happened here and how do I go from this? So even for the horseplay, right? But even growing up in school, I mean, in our generations, how many times did you get in a fist fight in school and you beat the crap out of each other? Like, I got a lot of fist fights, you know what I mean? But we didn't shoot each other, and you win some and you lose some and you brush yourself off, and there's things that you learn from that and you build your character off of that. And there's so many life lessons to be gained if you're coached properly on, no one wants to lose, right? We all want to win, but at the same time, if you the loss is not an actual loss, if you can gain knowledge from it and perspective and guidance and then move forward and then win later on based on those, evaluations. So I think there's a lot of people missing that in this, that everyone's winner culture.
So I want to spend a few more minutes on the kind of the cause of how we got there, what's making this happen. I know a lot of the guys in the chat and a lot of people that are tuning in are going to want to talk about what they can do, how they can train, steps they can take, things of that nature, because that's the fun part. That's the sizzle, right? But you need the steak first. You need to understand why these things are happening and how, as a parent, you can prevent the next one from happening. Or, if you're a single mother listening to this and we're talking about these outlets, you need to get your kid into somewhere where he can lose, where he can be confrontational. Let's say you're a single mother of two boys, and you're always telling them, don't wrestle, don't fight, don't touch each other, don't go outside either, sit in front of a screen. Nah, let them throw down, let them go outside, let them climb and fall and get hurt. Actually, so literally, as I'm saying this, one of the moms in the chat just said, how does a single mom vet coaches to be a good role model for their sons? And I think that is an excellent question to pitch here. So, Rich, you had the last one, Swift. Single moms, you worked with couples, you've worked with women. I've heard a few of your stories on just training them through home invasion or, their area that they're going to be possibly met at, but let's look at the home. How can these mothers, a mother can't be a father, so she's got to find someone to fill that masculine role model. Where can they go, or how do they vet a good coach?
Oh, it's hard, but it's also so easy. What male was in that woman's life? Was it her dad? He's still alive. Does she have any brothers? Does she have any cousins that are close by? Other than that, honestly, it used to be the Boy Scouts, but now I'm leery there to even say that one anymore. Find the extracurricular activities that the kid has or your sons have already an interest in as well. Trust me, there's men around. They don't advertise, but they watch, they look. Hunter's education courses in the state, Colorado is a pretty good one. They also will pair kids up with male mentors for the shooting, for the tracking, for the that type of thing. And on top of that, they will get the mentoring for life. But for honestly, I would tell single mom, give them a rule, let them fight, give them a rule, no kicking in the nuts, no eye gouging. Seriously, you break a bone, hey, we got insurance. It's going to fucking, your brother's going to be the first one to sign the cast. Let them fight, don't reward them too much afterwards. let you kick your brother's ass, but this is where you fight. At home is where you fight together or against each other. And then outside of the home, you guys are the team against the world, if that comes to that.
Yeah, that's exactly what we do here. I've got living in the house, sharing a room, a 16-year-old and a 17-year-old. And if they start going at it, my wife wants to go in there and break it up. No. As long as the bleeding's not arterial, they're good. They'll clean up and fix whatever they break.
No,
but
I
establishing a hierarchy. They're gonna have a pecking order over who's in charge.
Always.
And so
Always.
they figure that out through violence and rough play and seeing who's going to be the top dog.
Right.
I'll give you a biased answer. If you're in Rhode Island, just come to my baseball team. You'll find the best coaches. But outside of that,
yeah, but I heard he's really short.
Find somebody, you motherfucker. On live. To me, the way I look at it and the success I've seen in young men that I've dealt with, and I've dealt with single moms as well, and they love our team because we hold their boys to a standard. Find a coach that holds a standard. You will not talk when I'm talking. If I tell you to do this, you will do this. If we're running this drill, you run this drill. You don't walk in the field. Let them have their rules, but also let them be boys. You know what? If they're wrestling on the side, that's fine, as long as it's not important time to pay attention. Let them throw down. Well, we were running a drill today, and two of the kids were kicking each other's ass. Not with bats, but with gloves. But I mean, you're not a part of this drill. I don't need you. As soon as I say, hey, come here, they snap out of it. You want a coach that can do that with them because that teaches them to restrain and also release. Now, to move forward a little bit, I asked the chat, if they have any questions for you guys to ask away. And one of those, and I'm assuming that you both do this in your line of work, Rich and Swift, is you look at what's going on and what caused those things to happen. Maybe you do research on the kid or the man who shot the place up and all right, where did it come from? What drove him to this? Maybe you look at what were the weak points of the school, the weak points, of the building, etc. So, Rich, one of the questions that was asked is, do you believe there's a correlation between corporal punishment and increased drug use and shootings? Do you think that these boys releasing this, if there's a father who is abusive at home or a mother mentally, physically, do you think that's also a contributor to these kids that are releasing out that because at home they're basically getting the shit kicked out of them?
Yeah, I think there's probably a definite correlation there. But just as you were speaking about the statistics of most of these boys coming from fatherless homes, there's also another statistic out there that shows almost every single one of these active shooter attacks, these people are on some kind of antidepressant drugs. So when you mix the lack of socialization with a fatherless home, right, and the current status of how we raise men to not be men, and then you add in the opioid addictions and antidepressants, it's just you have a melting pot for destruction. You take the spiritual aspect out of it, or you take the heart out of the situation, and like you were talking about, desensitizing people to where there's no value in life anymore. It's you have a you just have like a boiling point.
Swift, thoughts on corporal punishment and correlation with these mass shooters and mass violence?
It depends on where the corporal punishment is delivered from. So is it from a mom? Or is it from a grandpa, uncle, stepdad type of thing? That. No. My answer is no on corporal punishment being a contributing factor to them breaking, because it's corporal punishment in the home does carry over into the public life. But again, it would be, are they embarrassed by that father figure or lack of thereof to want to blow up on society or people who might trigger them from that pain? So my answer is no.
Yeah, like to have rules and to have boundaries and guidelines and stuff like that. To say that the rules are why someone throws a temper tantrum isn't. The kids don't throw a temper tantrum because there's rules, right? It's the lack of enforcement of the rules consistently, and those other factors make it so that when you try to put rules in place, now all of a sudden it's a big deal. And we see this a lot. It's very simple when we're doing the canine training, right? Because
that's no fucking joke, man. I've been in the fat suit.
Yeah. But when you're doing the canine training, everything is pattern driven. You can't let the dog do whatever it wants 5 times in a row and then ask the dog to be disciplined and then be surprised when the dog's not disciplined and want to do a hard correction or something like that on the dog. And it's like, dude, the pattern and the expectation that you've set forth is that this dog can do whatever it wants. And then if you think that when you go, hey, now I need you to be serious, that the dog's going to be serious and take you serious, the dog's like, dude, why is this any different than the other 5 times when you let me do whatever I want? So because you set no boundaries, right, and no expectation, then you shouldn't be surprised when the dog then becomes disobedient. So if we set no boundaries and we set no expectations and don't hold people accountable consistently, right, then when you go to for corporal punishment or something like that, or the fact of corporal punishment being the problem, you know what I mean? It's not like, it's one of those things where you need to have the consistency first, you know, before you can ask for that expectation.
Oh, that's perfect. I think that goes for child rearing like 101. So you can't sometimes enforce a rule.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I mean, if you look at, you know, our parents' generation, they came from a generation where every single one of them got their ass beat. Every single one of them. They all got their ass beat. How many of them have been mass shooters? But you look at this new generation.
Very few.
Yeah, very few. You look at this new generation where when you've got the factor of coming from single mother homes or fatherless homes because there's no positive male influence, because the majority of the shooters have been male, I think -1 in San Bernardino, but that was a terror attack. You combine that with an inconsistent level of discipline, because look, you're in the canine thing. I've got a big, huge monster dog outside right now, and he's happier when he is confined to a set of rules.
Yep.
If he's not disciplined or, you know, doing with what I tell him, then he just gets destructive because he's got no boundaries, no walls, no set of paths that he's allowed to take without any type of curiosity as to what might happen. He knows what's going to happen if he sits when I tell him. He knows what's going to happen if I tell him to stop or lay down. He knows the exact path that's going to take. But if he had no boundaries, he's just going to be digging up my damn yard all day and chewing through everything.
Yep.
And it's really no different with a kid or a man or anybody.
So, but what happens is you let that dog do that and you allow the dog to tear up the yard because you set no boundaries. And then what happens is you walk out and now you're pissed off that the dog tore up the yard. So you yell at the dog and the dog's like, I've been out here digging up the yard and you didn't care. And now all of a sudden you care.
Exactly. There's no consistency.
Confusion in the dog. And it's very similar patterns to children. You know what I mean? So by not setting those boundaries, we set the children or we set the dog up for failure because our lack of boundaries. I think there's even a biblical, proverb about that. You spare the child the rod and ruin the child or something like that. Right?
Yes.
Like
spare the rod.
Yeah, something like that. I'm not good at quoting stuff, but like I'm pretty sure there's something in there like that, right?
He doesn't even know the baby song.
Yeah. So, or Proverbs, or you got me, right? But
it is Proverbs.
The fact of the matter is, by not setting those boundaries and expectations, we're essentially setting them up for failure. Because we're going to have to come back and correct it, or that we're going to have to come back and we're going to be pissed off about it, right? But they don't know any better, and they're going to take advantage of any situation because it's a dog or it's a child, and they're opportunists, and they're going to push their boundaries and see what they can do and get away with. That's part of their growing process, right? And curiosity. So by not setting those boundaries, we're essentially setting them up to then have to come in and hammer them. And if we don't come in and hammer them, then we open up the floodgate for them to really just go off the deep end and do whatever they want. But either way, by lack of boundaries and expectations, we're setting them up for failure.
Yeah, it's the the analogy of, do you want to fix the pipe when it's leaking or when your fucking basement's flooded?
So as you guys are talking, something kind of just popped in my head. Do you remember when, or not remember, but do you know that nobody could run a 5-minute mile? It was not humanly possible. Doctors said it couldn't be done. Wasn't done forever. And then one person did it. And then the next year, 5 did it. I think that this is a part of that. I think this follows that same thing. You don't shoot. You're talking about your parents not shooting up. There were no school mass shootings and shit like that. That's because nobody had done it. And then Columbine happened. And I think that opened up the floodgates. And now, like, oh, that is an option? You mean I can take out all my worldly frustrations and I can go shoot up the school and all those kids that tease me? Or I can make a name for myself because I'm a fucking loser here, but I can get on the news. I can make my mark in history by being the guy who stuck it to the man and they shoved it up society's ass. I think that's a part of this. And what kind of also brought this, I'll throw on the screen. Bernie Mays says, is it depression or antidepressants? And it's kind of like 3 things. You've got the depression, like you're feeling down because maybe you're teased. Maybe every day you're the kid who's poor from a single mom. Your dad rolled out. Maybe he left a bad mark on, the town. So everybody teases you because of where you come from. And then you go home and your mom's, never around, or maybe she's an alcoholic or always working. So you have nothing there. And then you're just sitting there and, all of a sudden you're prescribed medicine. Maybe that's what, like, the brain starts getting wired and you start going nuts and all of a sudden you're just releasing because it's that fucking bad. You hate yourself that fucking much. You feel that much pain that you just want to inflict it on the world. And as much, like Jeff, fucking, it hurts my heart to think of what you had to go through with your kid being a part of this. And then the shooter, think about what the fuck kind of mindset do you have to be in to be that, to do something like that, to go to a school, to go to Sandy Hook. These small children aren't even up to my waist and they're getting shot. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, what demonic something had to have been broken there. And somewhere I feel like we fucking failed. Not we, but that child, the one who commenced that evil.
No. You had it right. We, as a society, failed these people to put them in an environment or create an environment that compelled them or at least fostered this type of downfall.
But that's what I'm saying. We have no systems in place in school for kids who don't have dads. There is no male guidance counselor of some sort that can check and be like, hey, little Timmy, we're going to make sure that you're in some sports, or if not, you can talk to me if shit hits the fan. Don't talk to your mom about girls, whatever the fucking system is. There's something there for that kid. We don't have that. Hey, little Timmy, you shouldn't be popping all these fucking meds. You're not ADHD. You're not depressed. You're just fucking sad because you're poor, whatever your situation is. Hey, little Timmy, you've got some fucking friends here. Hey, little Timmy, here's how you stand up for yourself. Hey, little Timmy, you want some friends? Let's go put you in some sports. Little Timmy's getting fucked because nobody's putting their hand out to help this young man, which is another part of why I want this show to happen, so we can start recognizing who those little fucking Timmys are. I do that with the kids on my baseball team because that's my sphere of control. That's how I'm trying to do this. Through the Family Alpha, through this Red Man Group Patriarchs, that's how I'm trying to do this. And if you're watching this, if you're not a part of the solution that's helping little Timmy, get the fuck out of the way because you're part of the problem.
Yep.
And the entire time, I was out of contact with my son because he was forced to shelter in place on lockdown without his phone near him, so he couldn't let me and his mom know that he was okay. And then I got the news that the shooter was shot and killed. Yeah, my first reaction is good. I hope the bastard's burning in hell right now. But at the same time, I kept wondering what the hell drove him to do it. And typical, he was pissed off at the world. What was really piss you off is when you look and you see that he had been calling the police and the FBI for fucking months, rambling and losing his fucking mind, and no one said or did any fucking thing. But he had just lost his fucking job, got fired from the oil field, because that's all there is out there. And he got fired from the oil field, last fucking resort. And, Nietzsche said the worst thing society can do to a man is ignore him. And this guy had nobody to fucking vent to. This guy had nobody to fucking channel anything through. He'd just been shit on by a system that was meant and built to shit on him. And granted, I still hope he's burning in hell for the innocent lives he took. But we created him.
All right. Fucking about time. I'm going to go on a rant. So we're going to shift gears a little bit. And this is where we get to the sizzle.
Real quick.
Go ahead.
Real quick.
Go ahead.
Real quick. I remembered. So the church I attend has implemented something is what you're talking about already. It's called Fathers in the Field, and it's not just here in Colorado. It's pretty much nationwide. And again, they take kids, boys, girls, and they pair them with male mentors to go hiking, fishing, hunting, camping. They're vetted. They're background checked. They're screened by the church that they are associated with. So it's not just, all right, here you go, go camping, even though his van has, marker Sharpie says free candy, you're okay. No. They're vetted fathers, they're vetted single adults. Maybe they've chose to be, the celibate, but they're still willing to be a mentor for these kids. So again, it's Fathers in the Field for single moms. They want that as well. On top of sports as well. Again, I'm big into sports. Get your kid in the kiddie crop. That shit's awesome. Because I'm not a big baseball fan. I think that's kind of stupid. Whatever.
We all can't be right.
I know. So when are you going to step up and be right?
Nobody.
Anyway,
Right.
sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's good. That's a good resource, and I would like to find a list. Maybe I'll throw it on the Family Alpha blog, or maybe next Redman group. We can toss something out there. But I'd like to get that list of options, not just for single moms, but for other men who are looking to connect with men, looking to do good. So yeah. We'll collectively get that, and we'll toss it out somewhere. So stay tuned for that. Now I'm going to try to screen share and show a video, and it's going to lead us into becoming situationally aware as a man, how to train your family to become situationally aware, to keep themselves safe outside of your sphere of control, and then some training that families can do. And the two of you literally do this. Like this, you train people and you help people like help themselves. So I'm really looking forward to, and the men, tuned in are looking forward to this aspect of it, but I had to delay them 46 minutes. So I'm about to release you guys and look, this is what you need to do. But before that, let's look at this video because it went a little viral and a lot of people probably know what it's going to be already. But here we go. Hopefully it plays. All right, and play.
You're at the
Here
end.
We go. All right, nope, here we go. So this is that lady just slashed that kid. The mom's like, what the fuck? She comes back to do it again. The dad with the daughter near the lady, she slashes her. The dad right now recognizes she's bleeding. He's like, what the fuck? Goes to get her, backs up. And then this fucking fat privileged lady just waddles across the street like nothing fucking happened. So watching that right here, that's how the family is spaced out. And
watch the parents. Watch the parents as they watch it, as the viewers watch it. Watch the parents. Where are they looking?
That's what I'm going to bring back right now. Kind of let you guys do your analysis of it, and hopefully it loads up.
Well, I think a good question is, why is there a random fat bitch cutting kids?
No. That's different. That's going to bring us back down the original path of why is this happening. All right, there we go. That's what I wanted you guys to see. So Swift, you want to take the first crack at it?
Sure. The parents are in their bubble, which is, it's good, but it's also bad. I mean, they're in public. I'm not even sure where it happened, but the parents are in a bubble because the kids they're in physical contact with the kids. So when you do that, I don't have to look at my kid because I'm touching them. So there's one degree of connection, but the parents are only looking in their personal bubble. If you want to do that analogy, your 3-foot zone that you only let your intimate zone, or whatever training you're talking about. But the parents are only looking in their bubble. They're not even looking about the people behind them. They're not even looking, as I walk down the street, whether it's Denver, Washington, D.C., or whatever else, I'm always worried about some idiot, or it doesn't matter what sex they are, driving down the side of the road trying to put makeup on or on their cell phone or trying to eat, which I have pulled somebody over one time eating fondue in their fucking car. The parents aren't paying attention around what's going on around them. And I'll stop there. Go ahead, Rich. Hold
on. I'll play it a little bit further so you can see kind of the advancement of the screen. So at this point, the wife is looking at the husband because the daughter stopped for some reason. Nobody sees the son, who I'm assuming the kid in blue. We're going to call the girl in yellow, boy in blue. So nobody sees it, and she just slashes his face and starts walking. And the lady starts coming back. So Rich, go ahead and take over from here.
So there's two things I see in this. The first thing is in a politically correct environment, we've lost the backbone to say, hey, please step back. You're making me feel uncomfortable. Don't come near my kids. You know what I mean? Even with, you know, you taking your dog for a walk, you have people who just walk up and randomly pet it, and a lot of people have lost the backbone to be like, excuse me, don't pet my dog. You know what I mean? And it's like, why are you walking up and talking to my kids? Why are you walking up and, you know, coming up? Cause we don't have the audio. So I don't know what she said as she walked up to the kid. But it's like, if you want to say something to my kids, you ask me. I'm the parent. Why are you talking to my kids? You know what I mean?
Yep.
The second thing I see with this, because we don't have the audio, is the parent's initial reaction is shock. And one of the first things that we teach in our active shooter training first is understanding the threat, which we kind of spoke about in the beginning of this. But the second thing is accepting reality is real, right? Because your first reaction is going to be going into shock. You're not expecting someone to walk down the sidewalk and slash your kid's face. You know what I mean? When law enforcement officers or military guys get called to respond to a threat, they're responding to a threat. So when they show up, they're already mentally and emotionally prepared for the worst case scenario. When we're in our comfort zone, enjoying our lives and things like that, and something happens that's out of context for that particular environment, the first thing that we need to do is snap out of shock, right? So what we can do as individuals is first understand that shock is a real reaction and is actually something that we will fall into. So we can recognize that we are falling into shock and we need to snap out of it quickly and make the appropriate reaction based on the situation.
Now, Rich, I'm going to bring it back up. Do you think that's so? I'm going to replay it, but watch the father. Do you think he's in shock while this is happening? Because look at him. He's just standing there. He's just standing and watching. It's like, wait, what the fuck is going on?
He doesn't know what to do. He grabs his kid and pulls the kid back. And here he's trying to make a decision. Do I chase this lady? Do I stay with my kids? Did that really happen? And by the time he realizes, like, hey, this lady just attacked my kids, he's like, whoa, I'm going to chase her down. She's attacked my kids. But you can see him sitting there processing the information, trying to make a decision on what to do, because I would imagine he's in disbelief of what he just witnessed.
So I'm going to play the whole video one more time, and then we'll just get off it. But this is the whole thing in real time. Slashes boy, walks back. The dad's still, his daughter's right near this woman. Then now he grabs her and moves her. And now I think then he notices the blood, and that's when he kind of chases her and whatnot. All right, we're going to get off that.
Jesus.
So, but I mean, I think you're completely right. I think that's something that you can never prepare for anything, but you can prepare, and I do believe this, for reaction time. You know, and I play the what if scenario in my head a lot. What if this happens? I'll do that. If this happens, I'll do that. You know, and that way in my head, I've taken the action 1,000 times. My son last summer almost died. And a real long story quick, we were fishing. We were on these rocks. There was a bunch of algae that was really slippery. I told my kid not to step on it. The fool stepped on it. I turned to my daughter. I fixed her fishing line. I turned back. My son's gone. He's 20 feet at the bottom of these rocks. And all I see is it felt like an hour, but it was a second of him looking up at me. And then the wave swallowed him. And my kid for a second disappeared. And I was like, whoa. And then all of a sudden the wave came up and I see like a hand come up. And I fucking threw myself down those rocks to get him. Snatched him up, swam back, held on, climbed him up, put him up, whatever. Everything was good. But I think, what if I was not in enough shape to get down those rocks without breaking my own neck? What if I mentally didn't have, what if I fell into shock? I was like, I don't know what to do. My wife behind me was like, she's not going to get him. She was freaking the fuck out. You know, but what if I freaked out? My kid gets sucked out to sea and like literally dies. That's really fucked up to like think about, you know, but that's, again, it's not just the ultimate Rambo, the bank robbers have you pinned down, you got to jump and take the shot. You know, we have all these crazy stories in our head from movies, but sometimes it's as simple as walking down the street. Are you ready then? So let's dive into how can family men be more situationally aware without becoming the tweakers, like I said earlier, that are wearing the gas cans, the G-Shock, the 511, you know, they're packing and they're fucking, they're always, oh, my back's not to the door. My back is to the door. I'm sweating now. I'm freaking out. We're not trying to get to that level of insanity, but we are trying to get to the level where you can react faster. And when you do react, it's sensible. So how can men train that without, going to war? Swift, I'll toss this one to you.
Okay. All right. So again, I call it videotaping. You're playing the videos, what if. Basically, you're trying to take and shorten your OODA response, your OODA loop. Hopefully everyone's familiar with that, because that's another whole long deal by itself. But you're trying to shorten your OODA loop so you can still observe, orient, and then react to whatever's going to go on. Because you have to decide. You should have already had decided on what your tools are in your toolbox through training, equipment preparation, and then being proficient with whatever tools you have, whether it be the tourniquet in your pocket, a knife, a gun, flashlight, and honestly, can you unlock your cell phone after a workout or right in the middle of workout? Stop doing a workout. Can you even unlock your fucking phone? That's the fastest one as well. Not only to dial 911, but maybe capture a quick picture or video for evidence for later for prosecution. But playing those what if games in your head, you found it, and that's the short one. But playing those situations in your head, pick like everyday things, like what happened in your life. Do you remember what happened when you were a kid? When I was a kid, I was around cattle, and not just regular cattle, but stock, rodeo stock. So you're gonna get your finger cut off, you're gonna lose a finger, you're gonna lose, a foot. The biggest reason why I stopped riding bulls when I was a kid, it got really close to getting something very precious to me stepped on by so I'm done. So when I took my son, my oldest is now, he's 18, but when I took him around and we went rodeoing and I worked the back behind the chutes, I was already prepared in my head what could happen, what I need to watch out for, because kids are still curious and these are big fucking animals. And again, they're just animals. So they have no real hate. They just don't want to be there. That's it. But again, in your everyday life, what if, and how do I do if this happens? What do I do if this happens? As long as you play those, but again, don't get to the point where it's paranoid, aware, but not paranoid, because you get to there, you're worthless, because you're gonna paralysis by analysis as well.
Yep. No, Rich. No, go ahead. I was gonna say, Rich, before you go, I want to throw something out there. When people watched that video, I went through the comments and they all said, "Oh, she'd have been dead before she even, touched the sun. Oh, she would have been dead." They say all these things, but then you ask them, "When's the last time you shot your gun? Like, when's the last time you trained with your firearm?" "Oh, it's been a few months." "Okay. When's the last time you sprinted?" "Oh, when's the last time you lifted a weight?" "I don't know." "Okay, but you think you're going to be Rambo?" My wife, she has mace. We had like sprints and push-ups and all these things. Now I'm like, now grab it. Now get it out of your purse. Now you're breathing hard. And I'm trying to simulate the adrenaline. Think about the same thing with your gun, the same thing with the situation where bombs and shit's blown up and you're all fucked up. Your hands will be trembling if you don't go through and like train for that response. Because then you're like, all right, calm down, to where you kind of everything goes silent and you're like just in your zone doing your thing. And it's like slow motion, but you're actually going very fast. If you don't train the way you're going to play, you're going to be fucked up. And I don't know why people have this cognitive dissonance, but they think they're going to rise to the occasion. They think they'll be the hero. Again, referring back to my son, if I was, 300 pounds, my fucking ass can't get to him. He's on the bottom of a freaking cliff. He dies because I'm fat and lazy. You don't want that to be you. And that's why we're having this show. We don't want your family, your friends, or yourself to die a preventable death. That's ridiculous. So Rich, what is your advice for men looking to become more situationally aware and capable?
Well, as far as the capable aspect of it, I mean, you kind of touched on it. It's kind of the whole concept of our company, Full Spectrum Warrior, is that we have a lot of people who come, like you're saying, who want to do the high-speed shooting stuff, and they're like, "Yeah, man, I want to shoot like a Navy SEAL and all this stuff." And it's like, dude, there's a reason why there's such a big physical fitness aspect to being in the military and stuff like that, is because first and foremost, you are the weapon, right? Your brain is the strategy, right? Your body is the vehicle, and you're only going to be able to be as so good as the capability of that vehicle. You know what I mean? And it goes into combatives and then to shooting. And one of the things that's really neglected in the firearms community, in my personal opinion, is the combatives. So we switch from military mindset where you might be engaging bad guys from really far distances, right? And the bad guys want to kill you from distances, right? And no one cares, how that happens, right? Because the goal is defeating the enemy. In our personal lives as civilians, that's not the case. Someone's not shooting you necessarily from 300 yards away, right? And then leaving. If someone's going to attack you in the civilian world, um, outside of these active shooter attacks, but even those are still close proximity. But if someone's going to rob you or rape you or do a home invasion or any of these types of things, the proximity is very, very short. And a lot of people will say the first thing I would do is shoot them. Well, you can't just draw your gun and shoot them unless you can prove that your life was in danger. So if someone walks up and starts talking crap to you and shoves you, that doesn't give you the right to draw your pistol and shoot them. So how do you deconflict that situation? Your first reaction is probably going to, if things do go down, you'll probably have to be in a fist fight or a grappling match until you can create space and identify whether they have a weapon or not, and is your life truly in danger before you can draw a firearm. So we hear people a lot of times say that, yeah, I would have just shot him. And it's like, okay, well, you would have just gone to jail too. You know what I mean? So that's not necessarily the right response. And it's kind of a shortcut or a cop out, in my opinion. It's a little bit more complex than that. And we have to be complex in how we respond to it, because it's not just black or white.
Now, when it comes to advice on those looking, we always say keep your head in a swivel. We say, kind of observe and see what's going on around you. Again, we do the what if game. All right, that car's over there. That's kind of weird. It's not normally there. Pay attention to it. That bag,
Yep.
Weird shit like that. You have for the everyday man who's just going through day to day, like that. Like we see people walking on the road. What are not some tips, but like some things that men can start doing, that they may not be paying attention to.
Yep, I have a tip for that video. So, and not trying to armchair quarterback, but we look at that, we go, what could we have done differently, right? The one thing I see right off the bat, we do this drill. It's called stacking, and we train the children, right, to stack the adult between the threat and the parent. Right now, as I'm walking down the street with the children, instead of having the kids on the outside and the parents in the middle, the two parents could be on the outside and the children could be walking in the middle, so that the parents have a barrier between anyone who's on the side, who's, just hanging out on the sidewalk, everyone they're passing by, even vehicles or dogs or anything like that, in that area that they're passing through, the children are between the parents, right? And basically the parents are a blocking force for the children. Now that's something you don't have to be paranoid about. It's just when I'm walking, I put the child to the inside. If I'm passing people on the sidewalk, I put my child on the side where they are on the outside, and I am in between me and the people we're passing. And you can train the children and make a game out of it so they can do the stacking drill, right? But also when something bad happens, now the children, just like training the children for a fire drill or an earthquake drill, right? If there's something happens, like once the guy did slash the child, that child should run and stack the parent. And now the parent can focus on the bad guy and doesn't have to look to the child and move the child into position and try to be multitasking, multi-focused. The child can move into position and you can put greater attention to what is the threat, right? Or the environment. Does that make sense?
No, it makes perfect sense. And that's the thing though. It makes perfect sense because I think about this shit. So what I'm hoping to do is have the guys that are watching this to break it down. And this is why I wanted Jeff and I on here, because we think like this, because we hang around men that do shit like what you guys do and have passed on. We're like, all right, I'm going to apply this and make sure it works. In the Navy, I was an engineer, so I didn't have to go. So all the shit I've learned has come from friends or men who've done that shit. And I just, all right, cool. Here's how I apply it. And it's funny. One of the things you say, when I walk, I put myself between my wife and the road. but I watch all the people walking near us because that's always been like, all right, you're on the inside, my love. You know, you're over here, I'm over here. If a car is coming, boom, you're out of the way. I got you because I'm watching the car. But like a chameleon, every time a person's coming by, it's like the other eye's watching that guy. Like, all right, cool, like that person. And when they walk past, maybe I'll glance over if they give me the wrong vibe, whatever. But you explained all that, and it may seem like this complex thing, but it's quite simple. And I really like how you said it's a game because that makes it less fucking paranoid. You know, it's less of a children get between your mother and I, or I will beat you with a bat. I'm trying to keep you safe. Be afraid of the world. No. Hey guys, where are you supposed to stand? All right, come on over here. You know, hey guys, all right, first one in the middle wins. You know, just the little things, kind of like the fire drills. You know, you make it fun, but also educational. And that's the best way to teach a child is to have them enjoying the learning process. They don't realize they're learning. They're playing with mom and dad until they're older and they're like, I got it.
Yeah. That's kind of how
other thing. The other thing, sorry, Jeff.
No, I was gonna say I do the exact same thing. Like with my wife and one or two of my kids are out with us. I always walk behind them because if we're attacked from the rear, I'm gonna get it first, and they have to get past me to get to them. But if they're in front of me a few paces, I can see everybody around them, and I can see who would try to engage them from either side or the front. So, I mean, it is just second nature, and I always pass it off as the excuse I like to look at her ass.
I was just going to say, there's another reason, right? So, Swift, before you go, I'm just going to throw this in the screen, but it's going to block you and Rich. No, you can go. I just want to bring this up. So, Don says, you know, people should set a weekly reminder on their phone. I put it on your phone, on the calendar somewhere to practice situational awareness. The talk is great, but people fall into comfort and complacency and will forget. And I think that's a solid point. Somewhere on your calendar, hey, fire drill. Hey, make sure you know I'm training not just, you know, how to lift and how to shoot, but like to do push-ups and then shoot, to do a few sprints, you know, burpees and then shoot. You know, not just going to the range and making sure that your spread is within 6 inches. Swift, go ahead.
The biggest thing that people forget about that I really reiterate and I have to retrain, especially new team members, is read body language, read your environment, and because you know, you told me one time, you know, I say something and it's like it's common knowledge, but then I forget to elaborate on it, especially in podcasts as well. It's when you say, hey, are you looking around? Are you observing? You know, it's hard to truly articulate in a quick little podcast tonight, but you know, what are they looking for? Well, you're looking for people who have that intent to, I won't say evil, but you know, they're looking that it's raising your little red flag. Why is this person looking at kids, or why is this person looking at that girl? Why is this person looking at that car? That is not what I would judge as normal. And again, if you can articulate it just like that, we'll back you up in court as well. You know, why is that guy looking at that car like that? And then later he stole it. Why is that guy looking at that girl at the bar like that? You know, and all of a sudden he tried to get her later. You know, so you need to, on top of learning your tools, knife, gun, combatives, open hand, empty hand type thing, you had better learn how to read people. My wife and I do it all the time. We call it our people watching thing. You know, kind of like Jack Murphy. You know, are they fucking? You know, they're great games. They're great date games, but they also help build those skills of how to read people in society, outside of home, and public events, scenarios, situations. Because once that, and then when you can do that and you do those games, it shortens your OODA loop. So in case something bad happens, you're already reacting. You're done. Whether it be, you know, a quick, you know, the mom or the dad get the knife in the back of the arm on a block so the kid doesn't get cut. Or, you know, a couple of, so we've seen them, those great dad videos where the dad saves the kid at the last minute before the kid eats the bricks or falls off the swing, or, you know, gets hit by the shopping cart. Those are people who are watching their environment, not have their head up their butt on the phone, but they knew what was going to happen because it was different than normal. They reacted. They saved somebody. That is what should be the paramount thing, on top of learning your skills and developing them and becoming very well in them.
That's an incredibly important. I'm really glad you brought that up, man. So first off, micro expressions, that's a real thing. That is just like the twitch of an eye, or maybe eyes wide open when they should be a little bit closed. Nobody walks around like this down the street unless something's up. You're either on drugs or you have your adrenaline's flowing and you're ready to commit something. But dad reflexes, that's not a thing. It's just men who've had kids are now more aware because they're playing in their head. All right, my kid's on that wall. If he steps here, he's going to fall there. I'll be able to catch him. If he steps here, he's going to fall there. I'll be able to catch him. So when that happens, you've already done it 100. This goes back to, you perform the action 1,000 times. So when it's time to call on it, you go. You know where to step. You know where to put your hand. You know everything you're going to do because you've already done it. So dad reflexes can be trained by all men. They call it dads because they're paying attention. But if you're a man leading a family, and maybe it's just you and your wife, maybe it's you and your girlfriend, and she's walking on the road, what are you going to do if she rolls and falls? You should have yourself in a position to catch her. What are you going to do if, somebody runs and bumps her because you see these people running down the road? What do you do? And this kind of goes, we had a question that said by Jimmy G, how important is respect when it comes to a father keeping his family secure? And I'm going to touch on this one before I toss it to the men. It's huge because there's a huge difference between 1 second and 3. If I say to my wife, get down, or if I tell my kids, come here, that happens. They understand I'm not fucking around if I say it in that tone. If they don't respect you or they don't think that you have the right answer or you're not a good leader and you say, come here, why? Well, bam, you just got run the fuck over because you waited, because you did not respond as quickly as you should have, because you did not command their respect. Your family needs to know how quick to respond. And to Swift, how do you instill that? How did you, and this, we had another question, which is how do you provide proof of a sense of security to your family without situational confrontation where you would protect them? So basically, how do you let your family know to listen to you and follow you if you've never done anything? There's nothing's ever happened for you to prove or to test your mettle. So how did you prove that to I know you're fucking Swift, but for the average man, we're talking to just the average Joe, right. 9 to 5, coming home, wife, kids.
All right. So the first thing, I have a blended family. Okay. So I have 2 stepdaughters. And they fall in between my other 3. So I have 5 kids total. The easiest way to make sure that respect is still built is when I joke with them, it's nothing too serious or the joke isn't too far-fetched. I mean, I don't fuck with my girls or my kids, but I tease them. So just 4 weeks ago now, we had a pretty bad storm. My roof got beat to shit by hail, about 1.5 inch golf ball size hail, about 80 mile an hour wind. But it started to turn, and my southern boy thing goes, this might be a tornado. So I immediately woke all my kids up one time and said, get downstairs with mom. No one argued. No one said anything else. Everyone immediately got up, grabbed their little stuffy, the little bunny, their elephant, and their blankie, went straight downstairs to mom. No questions asked, no arguments, no nothing. After the storm was done, all of them were like, use the dad voice. I'm like, good shit.
The dad voice is a thing.
It's real.
Oh, yeah.
People like it sounds like a joke because dad jokes. No, dad voice isn't the fucking fat joke. That's legit. You use that tone, right. Fucking family better fucking straighten up.
Wife screaming, go to bed. No one listens. I go, hey, bed now. And it's done. So dad voice is real.
And it's happened before too. So my kids are kind of not trained to it, but they recognize it and they do it. We were downtown one time, and somebody they piqued my radar up pretty hard. Using my fisheye mirror on my truck, and I'm like, you know what? Get in the floor real quick. Boom, seatbelts off in the floor. Because they know if something bad happens, happy Glock comes out and gets to play. So, and best place for them is underneath Happy Glock. So it happens. But again, the best way to help instill that respect is constantly reminding them, hey, I'm dad, I'm stepdad, I care about you. I only want the best for you. If I say do something, then do it. It goes back to a military axiom that I know, do what you're told when you're told, easy. And that's reiterated into my kids and my family quite often, but they also know that I love them, and it's not all so serious all the time. There's time to play, and then they know when it's time to listen and shut up and do exactly what Dad said. Do it right now.
I think there's one second. I think there's also a time and place, where you can prove that to them. Let's say you're out, you and your wife are getting dinner together, and some guy bumps into her and knocks her over, and he walks by, and she's like, "Well, what are you gonna do?" And you're like, "Well, you were in his way," and like you're afraid to confront the guy, so you bash your wife. That shows her that you are conflict averse like a motherfucker. Like, so how could she think you're gonna rise to the occasion if you start crying and yelling at her when some fucking asshole walks into her because you don't want to fight? Fucking Chad Cock McDiesel over here.
Was that from that story I told you about when me and my wife first started dating?
No, but I do want to hear that at some point. But before that, Jeff, go ahead. You were going to say something.
Well, see, kind of in parallel to what you were talking about, Swift, I like to get my kids involved in that as well, based on their age. You may have seen, I put some pictures up where I took them up on a 6-mile hike through the mountains. We hung out at some waterfalls, but I had a rule right before we started on the trail. I told my 16-year-old, I said, look, if something happens to me, I'll get myself out of it. You'd go ahead and take your younger brothers back to the car. If I fall, fuck me, you just go. Right. And then my 13-year-old right below him, I said, if something happens to him, I'll get him. You take little brother, 10-year-old, and go. 10-year-old, your only responsibility is to go with the oldest available person back to the fucking car. That's it. If something happens to anybody else, I'll get them. Youngest boy follows oldest available and gets the fuck out of Dodge. And so I try to do that before we get into any kind of situation where something could happen, because where we were, a lot of it is marked, but a lot of it's unmarked too. And I think there's a shitload of bear sightings, as well as I think 9 deaths just this year alone from those falls. So I was like, everybody does exactly what the fuck I say unless something happens to me, and then you stay on the trail, go the fuck to the car, I'll fix me.
Right.
But I think, being able to put them in miniature situations like that is another good way to build that kind of a reliant on you to have the best advice attitude. Hey, we're going to be going to the beach. I want everybody to follow me and do what I say. If something happens, give them a job.
Dude, I just wrote. Holy shit! I just wrote that down to talk about in a second, but we'll get to that. Rich, we've got a question that I wanted to toss your way. So from the chat, it says, "How do you react when someone larger in frame or a professional MMA fighter is testing you?" So somebody that's clearly a proven fighter is testing you in front of others.
Well, there's one thing. I mean, you just got to be careful if you try to escalate a situation, right? Then it may escalate to the point where you can't then de-escalate it. So you can be confident without being cocky. You know what I mean? Like, you can respectfully stand your ground. And one of the things that we were talking about at the 21 convention, we had a similar comment, was many times when people will try to push your buttons or whatever, like, let's say they're making a comment like, hey, dude, that's a stupid t-shirt. You know what I mean? And try to like throw something out there to test you, to try to get your response. You could try to ignore them or whatever, but if you're in a position where you can't, what you can always do is ask the instigator a question back. When you ask them, same thing when you're working with cluster B personalities, when you throw a question back at them, it breaks them out of that emotional state of mind and it slows things down because now they're obligated to answer, right? And if you can keep that in that discussion, it buys you time, where at the same time, you don't have to be a coward and back down and be super passive, but you don't have to be overly aggressive in your body language, because body language is 90% of communication, like you were talking about before, right? You can be confident in your body language without being challenging in your body language. You know what I mean? So you don't need to bow up or step forward. You can stand tall and take like a step back and be like, pose a question, why is it something like my t-shirt upsets you that much? You know what I mean? Like, is that really a big deal? Like, how could that possibly be such a big deal that it would get you that upset? Is the t-shirt really the issue that's bothering you? because no one in their right mind would want to get in a fight over something stupid like what you're wearing. What do you care what I'm wearing? That, you know what I mean? But you see people say something about your hat or your shirt or whatever, but that's not the issue. You know what I mean? No one wants to get in a fight over a t-shirt, but people will make comments about your clothing. You get what I'm saying?
Yep.
So that's just one way, because the other thing is that we're not in high school anymore. You know what I mean? And we have to be very cautious on, without being a coward, we have to be cautious on entertaining that person who's trying to instigate the fight. And as much as we might want to take that fight, we have to think, well, if I lose this fight, what position does that put my children or my wife or whatever in? You know what I mean? Sometimes you just have to bite your tongue and walk. But at the same time, like you're talking about before, if someone bumps into your wife, don't throw that on her, because now you totally lose respect from her. And if you lose respect from your wife or kids when you go to try, they're not going to take what you say seriously.
Yeah, I had listened into one of your talks, and I think one of your responses to that as well was, don't become a victim in the first place. Like, don't be the guy he thinks, oh, that's the guy I'm going to fuck with. Carry yourself well enough to, if you're at the bar or wherever, you're also giving off the vibe of like, look, there's got to be somebody weaker than that. I can, if they're going to tool on somebody, it's not going to be the one guy that they're like, all right, that guy's got my respect already because he's sitting straight, he's dressed well, he looks like he is physically capable. Like if you're some short pudgy dude wearing like a beer pong t-shirt, dude, he's going to like, all right, you're a little frat boy and he's been training, MMA the past 6 months. He just wants to beat somebody and you look like an easy target to make him feel good.
Yep.
But yeah, Rich, to your response about, ask them a question. I mean, the guy just could be having a bad fucking day. So ask him, are you all right? Because, I mean, you called me out over a t-shirt, but are you okay? Because you seem like you're worked up. Anything bothering you? And that throws them for the loop. They probably just have something wrong and they're just wanting to vent and take it out on someone.
Don't say,
most
who hurt you?
Ask them a question, you know what I mean? But they're in the assault, right? They're instigating, so they're pushing forward. And when you ask them a question, it's like throwing a jab back. That you ever watch fighters throw jabs, but they don't make contact, right? They're just doing it to hold space. It's an empty jab that holds position and keeps that person just enough respect so they don't move forward into your space, right? So essentially what that does is it slows down the attack. And what we want, again, is time to process information, time to see, well, who's his friends, and read the whole situation. Because, again, we're like, whoa, this caught me off guard, out of context. I wasn't expecting to get in a fight tonight, right? So when I throw that question, they'll, like, the majority of the time, when you ask someone a question, they feel obligated to answer it, and that buys you time, and it breaks them out of their aggression cycle, and it puts them into a cycle of having to problem solve and come up with an answer, which takes them out of that mental state of mind momentarily.
Another question from the chat from Darius. Do any of you guys have any experience in neighborhood watch, local gun club, or that kind of thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the answer is yes, Darius. We need better than yes or no questions. So we don't have a neighborhood watch, but I mean, obviously when I drive around, I'm checking out the neighborhood, making sure everything's good. I'm a part of a local gun club. So, I mean, if you want to be proficient with your firearms, you should be shooting your firearm, and to be shooting your firearm without spending money out the ass at the range, you can rent stuff, get a part of a club somewhere and, pay your dues once a year, whatever, and then shoot your brains out. Don't shoot your brains out. I mean, go and actively shoot your weapon a lot.
Content.
I almost said shoot your balls off, but I'm like, my aneurysm.
Wrong choice of words.
Yeah, don't do that. Go and shoot the targets a lot, like a wicked lot.
That'll work.
Holy fuck. Anthony, man, I'm going to get fired. I'm not going to be able to run the Red Bank group. Jeff's going to be the new host of Patriarchs.
You got a better beard anyway.
I've got to grow this shit back. It's all right. The other two guys don't have shit.
I had to shave it off.
All right. We're coming towards the end of this episode. So one thing I wanted to kind of toss your way. We'll start with Swift because Rich just went last. If you had, let's say, training advice for get physically and mentally preparing oneself for, defending their family in a crisis situation, what would your top 3 pieces of advice be, for mentally and physically preparing for, I want to say war, but you know what I mean? Like shit hitting the fan, whether it be a storm, a flood, a riot, the cops aren't going to get to them. They need to act, or their family needs to act. What are the 3 things they can do mentally and 3 things they can do physically to prepare for that?
Mentally is, besides the what if scenarios.
Actually, I think that's a good one. Not besides that. A lot of people don't do that. So that's a great one.
Right. So yeah, basically what if, but also you don't control everything. If something bad happens, it's not your fault. You did the best you could to prevent it. Bad shit still happens. You did the best you could to train for, to respond to it. Bad shit still happens. Because you can still do your job 100% and still lose. That was from a colonel buddy of mine that I know. You can do your job proficiently every day and you still die. So mentally, just know it's not your fault, but you will still try to fight. Keep it up. Physically, be able to tie your own shoes and bend over. If your gut's in the way, do something about it. Can you do 20 body squats? Can you do 20 push-ups? I would say don't be AJ perfect, but do the best and be the best that you are and can be. Don't give up. Third one, be proficient with what tools you can afford. Whether it be a little bug out bag, a little blowout bag, a first aid, a knife. Everyone carries that tool. Be proficient with a knife, and be proficient with your gun. And also my biggest pet peeve, keep the damn thing clean.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, and have a cell phone and know how to get a hold of 911.
Now, what's the number for 911? Just for the audience.
Well, if you got a Cisco phone, it's 911. If you want the real number, it's 912.
All right.
The area code?
So, Jeff, before Rich gives his 3 mental and physical, I'm going to toss this question to you because we aren't the SEALs or the SWAT or anything. So we're just the average dudes answering average questions. How much does giving my buddy crap in front of his wife or girlfriend family, even in a joking manner, cut down respect for that man in his family's eyes?
I would say it depends on the relationship that you have with that family. But just in general, like if you don't have, like for example, I don't know your wife, you don't know my wife. Now I'll bust your balls all day long. But if I'm in front of your family, I'm not going to bust your balls because in your eyes, in their eyes, you're fucking Superman, or at least you should be. And if you've got some guy, just random dude that your family's never met, busting your balls and you're just taking it, granted, there's going to be some like ribbon and ball busting between guys in general. But if you're going just always knocking and you're not busting back, then yeah, it's going to make you look like a little bitch in front of your family, even subconsciously. Be like, your wife is going to think, well, if I joke with him like that, and I go too far, he actually says something to me, but he never busted this guy's balls back. And so it does take away a little bit of the credibility, at least subconsciously in your family's eyes. So while it can be done, as long as he's reciprocating, busting your balls back, and then it just shows a healthy male dynamic of, we're just fucking with each other rather than you harping on the guy and him taking it.
That's a great answer. I was thinking along the same lines, you'll know when you cross the line. If the guy's always trying to change the subject or he's not like talking shit back, you cross the line. Now he's defensive. Now he's upset. And, when you leave, he's going to bitch to fucking everybody about you. So if nobody's laughing, stop.
Yeah.
All right, Rich, 3 pieces of advice for the men who are tuned in or are going to be watching this mentally and physically to prepare themselves and their family for the shit hitting the proverbial fan.
Yeah, definitely. So real quick, before I do that, just to add on to what you're saying, I would also ask why would someone who's supposed to be my friend feel inclined to try to de-edify me in front of my wife or kids, right? What is that something a true friend would do? If I'm ever around someone who's my friend and their kids are around, I would edify them, not de-edify them. If you want to joke and have fun, there's jokes that you can do that you can have fun and banter without the joke being a personal attack against the father or the husband, right? So you can still have jokes, but why do they like? I would just ask, dude, what is your motive? Why are you trying to build yourself up by breaking me down in front of my wife and my kids? Because now you put me in a situation where I have to retaliate, right, to defend myself, to keep my honor with in front of them, right? And that's just a really bad situation. It's not a good dynamic for your friendship or for your marriage or your being a parent, which goes back to before when you're talking about how do I have them take me seriously when I've never been in a fight in front of them in one of these situations? Well, those people who are right there, those dynamics that you're seeing right there with your friends in front of them, like that's a big indicator of whether they'll trust you in a real situation or not. You know, going back to the philosophy of how do you destroy a tank? You destroy it from the inside. You know what I mean? You don't throw a grenade at the outside of the tank, you throw the grenade on the inside of the tank. So just something to consider. But going into what are the things from mentality to physically for preparing ourselves to protect our family, I would say going right into this, parlaying from that, is the first thing I would say is earn your own respect, right? If you want your kids to respect you, if you want your wife to respect you, your friends to respect you, first things and foremost, you need to respect yourself. So putting in the discipline, taking, not taking yourself too seriously, but taking yourself seriously enough that you prescribe to a disciplined routine, right? That gets results and people look up to it and they see that you are consistent. You do what you say and you say what you do. You know what I mean? Like you follow up on what you start. As far as physically goes, a good physical physique is important. Men, the first thing they do when they look at each other, right, is they eyeball each other up and they go, could I kick that guy's ass or not? Right. And, obviously me being a skinny dude, like, there's a lot of guys who will look at me and go, that dude's a SEAL. I think I could take him. You know what I mean? And I understand that. But guys do that, right? That's one of the first things we do. So being physically fit is important, right? But going into, if we are, from my from my training standpoint, as far as fitness goes, I go, what makes me the most capable? My body is going to form up whatever way it's going to be. I'm training to be more athletic, have more endurance, be more capable for fighting, right? And all of my training routines are geared toward I want to be able to fight. And how my body develops and whether you think it looks good or not is a byproduct of my training. I don't go, my focus is just looking good, right? But I can't run, I can't swim, I have shitty range of motion and all this kind of stuff, but I look really good with my shirt off. You know what I mean? So being capable, taking priority over just the physical looks of it. You know what I mean? And then going into actually following through and taking the time to go do some self-defense training, go to the shooting range. And that could be a great time for you to bond with your family. It could be a great time for you to do something fun with your spouse or your girlfriend or whatever. And if you go get an instructor or something like that, that could be a great opportunity to where you don't have to essentially be the parent role. You're still a parent, but you can be working side by side with your kids and use that as a joint learning experience and build that relationship with them and that bond and that trust, and let someone else lead out on something that maybe you're not totally the expert on or super proficient in, and humble yourself in front of your family and be like, hey dude, I'm not the expert on this. We all need to learn this. Let's go get with an expert, right? And let's go learn together. And by doing that, you can actually gain more trust and respect because they see that you're humble enough to work side by side with them. And then again, coming back into building that respect so that when you say something, they take it seriously.
Oh, very well said. And I think the combination of the two of you guys that's the recipe. Like that. That's the playbook. It was just given to you, rewatch the video, record that, write it down. That's your playbook for being successful and having as positive an outcome as you can have, or preparing yourself as best you can, for worst case scenario. And, to kind of wrap this one up, before I go into, click the links, do that thing, let's look at like what we covered today. It's not a matter of if your number is going to be called, it's when. Something at some point is going to happen to you, whether that's a storm knocking out, the neighborhood and the ambulances can't get to you. They're swamped. The cops can't get to you. They're busy. You've got to survive. So we look at this, and a lot of it comes down to preparation, and let's bring it all the way to the minute. If your kid falls at the playground and scrapes their knee, do you have something to take care of that in your vehicle? Too many men will say no. That's pathetic. You're not even trying. You think you're Rambo, but you can't even be playground fucking hero. Never mind saving the day, like a high risk situation. Be prepared. A lot of people with this Storm Dorian, let's say it did smash a Cat 5. Let's say it did, Rich wouldn't be on the panel because he's in Florida. But let's say, it slammed Florida. Were you ready? Do you have water, food, supplies, lights? First aid, filtration systems. If you don't have those things, then your opportunity, that one window to show your family that you can handle it when shit hits the fan, you've blown it. You went from hero to zero because you didn't prepare. Don't wait for it to happen to react. Be proactive, not reactive. Be prepared ahead of time. Have yourself planned out for something as simple as the playground. Have your little medical kit, to something as big as, your kid falls out and a bone gets ripped through his arm, but you can't leave because something happened. And you've got to handle a serious, I don't remember what it's called, like a compound break or something like that, where you got to take care of your kid. What are you going to do? Yeah. You've got to be ready. You've got to be ready for worst case scenario. And that doesn't mean you're always thinking worst case scenario, but you're ready. It's not going to be the zombies. Everybody loves to say, oh, when the zombie apocalypse hits, I got 1,000 rounds of ammo. That's awesome. You don't know how to fucking shoot though. What the fuck's the point of having all that ammo? They're gonna storm you and they're just gonna take you over, and you just gave them all your ammo. So it's not the ammo, it's you. You are the tool.
For food. You were scrounging around for food, cut your leg on glass, and you have no idea how to apply a tourniquet.
Yeah, and it sounds funny, but something as small as that is what's gonna fuck you up because you're not ready for that. You're too busy thinking huge, thing, and it's actually the small everyday opportunity that you have to do things right. So prepare yourself by planning in advance. Get yourself a small medical kit. They're at CVS, they're at Rite Aid, they're on Amazon. It's like $20 and you can be a fucking hero. Trust me, I've been there. I've got all the ice packs. So if a kid takes a ball off his head, Coach Drew saves the day, runs in, has it, pop it open. Guess what? Go get some ice cream or something, kid, while your eyes are like, you got a big shiner. But guess what? I can sit there and be like, I don't know. The league didn't arm me with anything to take care of you guys. That's their fault. No, it's your fault. You're a man. Take care of these people.
Buy 2 first aid kits, one to keep and one to play with to figure out how to use it all.
It's even better advice.
Yeah.
I was totally on a soapbox and I forgot I was supposed to wrap this thing up. So, gentlemen, I'll be speaking. Rich will be speaking this October. From the 24th to the 27th in Orlando, we'll be having the 21 convention. The link is below. Go in, enjoy it. It's a great time. You can ask the questions one-on-one. You can do all these things. Also, if you look below, you'll see the sponsors of the show. You've got Tactical Soap, you've got Tate's War Room, and you've got the Fraternity of Excellence. If you're looking to join a group where men are coming together to train in these things and to do stuff like that, that's what we do in FOE. Jeff's a member. He can vouch for it. That is what we're talking about. I think we've got 8 meetups this month. These men coming together. And if you use the code RMG10, you'll get 10% off your membership price. Make sure you've subscribed. Make sure you hit the like button. And more importantly than anything having to do with supporting us, support yourself. Don't just listen to a YouTube channel, but apply the information. Apply it to your life. It's awesome you tuned in. I appreciate that. It's awesome you dropped questions. That's really cool. I love the engagement. But at the end of the day, did you use the information that we gave you? Because if you didn't, you wasted our time. We know this. We live this. This is what we do. We're looking to get better at all times. But this is how we operate. Be like that. Be another father we can count on. Like if shit hits the fan, you'll take care of my kid. I'll take care of yours. but apply it. Don't be the guy who suffers preventable pain and preventable loss or have your family suffer it because you didn't want to act. Rich, Swift, Jeff, thank you for coming on. For everyone who tuned in, thank you for clicking, enjoying, spread the knowledge.